radio side. We'll be right back. And I have a question for you. Do you love coffee?
Yes, I do love coffee so much, and actually, the region in which I live, of Eastern Uganda, particularly Sironko and Mbale, are one of the biggest producers of coffee in Uganda.
Well,
It's
that's
one
that's
of
that's very
it.
good. Very very glad to hear it because
Yes,
Aaron's opinion is brought to you by Blended Joe LLC.
thank you.
And the website is blendedjoe.com. If you want fruit in your coffee, if you want nuts, if you want a light roast, a dark roast, a medium roast, they also do a lot of work to support charities around the world. As I like to say, if you're just on your couch at home listening to Aaron's opinion, or if you're on the go, I promise that you'll love every sip from Blended Joe. Until the end of the month, 20% off, promo code Aaron, Aaron. You said something really interesting that I have more questions about. You said that um, you know really I want to know, in as you have been working with these blind people, and I call myself blind, so I that's who I am. I'm blind. Um,
Yes.
so give our listeners, because most try to give our listeners a lot more information about your work that you've done specifically with blind people and some of the interesting interactions you've had, because most of the audience here on this podcast are blind people. So talk a little bit more about that, if you would.
Yeah. What I've learned about the blind people, especially, I think one of the things I've learned from them with the interaction, it's a pleasure that I've had a number of friends who are blind, and I realize they have a very great memory. They don't forget. My cousin brother could not forget any step from home. Actually, most of the people who used to come home used to say that he is not having any blindness and is a pretender. Because he had marked every corner of the house, he could move to the house without using a cane, and he has never been hurt in any way. Uh, the biggest experience I've had with people who are blind is that in most cases they don't get quick support, especially in developing countries. Uh, some people feel maybe this blindness will go away, and therefore a child is left without going to school up to a later age when they start to go. And yet it would be good for them to take them immediately. And then here, I think I must say we have very few schools for the blind. There are not more than 10 blind schools. I mean, schools for the blind. So I think it's one of the things that we shall start to advocate for in the near future. My biggest advice and lesson I've learned is most people who are likely to get blind, they don't know. And even some of the children, when they are going to get blind, they cannot know. And the advice we've been giving, especially to our beneficiaries who are having visual impairments, for example, there are those ones who are short-sighted, long-sighted, and they feel there is a risk in future that they'll be blind. We normally advise such people that yes, you can go to normal schools and study, but it is good to start enrolling into braille classes so that just in case your sight is gone, you are not stranded, but you can revert to the braille and you start using it. And also those ones who are not having any visual impairments, it is good not to say, okay, braille is for only the blind. Uh, we can become of help to the blind community by supporting them. So I think we can also learn some of these things like braille, so that if we have a blind person, we can provide a quicker solution before they're even taken to school. It's just like sign language. You don't need to know sign language okay, you don't need sign language to teach people, but you can also use it for communicating to people. So I'm imagining getting a blind person. Uh, I want to help him write something quickly, for example, spelling, and maybe I don't know how to use Braille. I feel it's not good. So my encouragement is if you are partially blind or you are fully blind or you have any kind of impairment like short-sightedness or long-sightedness, it's better you try to enroll into Braille courses so that at least just in case anything bad happens, you can still be able to live in the life very well and you can work for a living.
Yeah,
That's
beautiful.
the that, that
Yeah,
that's the insight I can give to those listening.
sure. And
Mm,
and it's funny you say this because I actually find that in a sense, in some ways, a lot of these things happen all over the world, even in the United States.
yes.
You would be surprised. Actually, you personally would not be surprised, but there are people in America and probably everywhere. Sometimes people do not believe in blindness. I have heard of this before.
Yes.
When I was a boy, I had a teacher who did not believe in blindness either. Even in America, that's a thing. I can't. I struggle to fully understand that
Mm,
because it's simply who you are, right? If you're deaf, you're someone who cannot hear, right? If you're blind, you cannot see. So either you are blind or you are not. But I don't believe in that whole concept of, well, someone's faking or someone, I am not a subscriber to that thought, to that.
yes.
But I have had people once or twice,
Mm,
once or twice, I have perhaps encountered people in my own life who maybe have exaggerated things, or I do not. I had an opinion that I met someone at some point along the way of my university studies who I think could have been pretending to have some sort of to be blind in the past, but I never knew
mm,
that to be true. So I mean, the point is, if you're blind, you're blind. You are not faking. Are there people once in a while who fake a disability to get attention? Yes, there are, but those people are very rare, and it's very
mm,
noticeable to blind people if someone is faking, if someone is pretending to be blind. It's noticeable instantly. So
yes.
that is life. I think that really, um, all of what you said is true, and it
Mm,
is the reality for many blind people around the world that it's very, 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 very difficult. Yes.
yes.
Um.
Actually,
Yes. Yes.
there's a lot of stereotyping
Sure.
uh, when it comes to blind people. So many accusations that those who say blind people see at night or they see in darkness like they're like postcards, and which is not the case. And then for us here, a disability is naturally looked at like as if it is a curse in our African setting. They feel
Right.
if you are blind, maybe you are cursed or you had a
And I've
you're a
also,
bad omen.
indeed, yeah, yeah.
Mm,
And just to fill it, just to give you a little bit more information about me on that one point. In the past,
mm,
I interviewed a blind man from Nepal, and in
mm,
in Nepalese culture, Nepalese society, it is a similar challenge that a lot of people in Nepal, especially in the small villages in the countryside, believe that disability is a curse. And they
yes.
really they and listeners, they really believe that. They really, but when people believe that disability is a curse, they truly believe it. And it's very sad. um,
Mm,
but I have heard, or this other person was telling me, that in Nepal things have started to change a little bit in Kathmandu, the main city there. So do you think do you think some people in Uganda are starting to have a greater understanding of of blind people, especially with the great work you're doing? What do you think?
I think there is a very big change of late, and people are not attributing disability to things like curse or bad omen. People have started to learn that yes, this is something that happens, and it can happen anytime, irrespective of your age. And the good thing is that this has been taken on also by the government. For example, we are making sure the government is making sure that each and every building is accessible for people
Ex-
with, for example, the
Wonderful. Glad
blind,
to hear it.
those ones with wheelchairs, by putting ramps. Uh, and basically, they're saying each building should have at least rails, whereby a blind person can keep handling to move so that he cannot get injured. There have been so many sensitizations about white canes. What if you see a person crossing a road with white cane? You should always reduce the speed of the vehicle. And
Yeah, that
we
that
are
would
seeing
be
that.
that I actually
Mm,
would agree with that. You should try
mm,
People should try to not hurt someone with their vehicles.
yes.
That might you never know. That might actually reduce
Mm,
that would in fact reduce the number of accidents.
yes.
And in many countries around the world, a lot of people are injured in car crashes or by vehicles. It's quite
Yes.
common, unfortunately. I believe it's common in your country and several countries in around Africa and the Middle East that accidents by vehicles are quite a major problem. In fact, hmm yeah, yeah. I mean, people. I mean, even in America, people can still get hit by a car. It still happens, but it's less frequent, I think, than it is in your part of the world. hmm Yes. Yeah. About are you there?